Welcome to Alive with Dar. I am your host, Darlene Cordero. On this show, we'll dive into unfiltered conversations with leaders and experts in wellness, business, and culture. I'm a connector, an entrepreneur, and I love exploring the realities of entrepreneurship, AI, technology, and what it means to live boldly in today's world. Every episode is about documenting real journeys, inspiring bold action, and connecting us through powerful insights that can transform our lives. It's real, it's raw, and insightful conversations that will inspire you. Episode of Alive with Dar, I am honored to welcome my friend, Alicia ACE Easter. She has taken her passion for teaching to the next generation, sharing yoga with young children and helping tap into their own potential. ACE also collaborates with communities, leading retreats and holding space like only she can. I can't wait to jump in. Welcome, ACE.
Thanks, love. I'm so excited to be here with you. Thanks for having me.
I just saw you last week at my book launch, and that was really powerful. We took a little bit of a break from my first episode. This is the second where I want to go deeper with this beautiful community that I'm so blessed. And you are a sister to me. And so I wanted to document this. As you all know, the show is all about that and having raw and real conversations. ACE, I want to start with something really powerful that we've talked about, a question about your journey into this wellness space and your own personal journey into the work you do. I know a lot of hardships. We've talked about it personally, and whatever you want to share here, I really want to go into like what brought you to this space to share yourself in your personal journey and now in the work that you do.
Great question. I always love this question, Darlene, and talking about this and talking about my journey. I used to not be able to do it so eloquently. And so intentionally, sometimes it used to just come out like feeling like at times like word vomit. Yeah. But what got me to living in Los Angeles, California was, wow, it feels like just so many different lives were lived, as I'm sure you all and a lot of your listeners can and viewers can relate to. I was born in Baltimore, grew up in Atlanta, have been an athlete my entire life, growing up playing sports, organized sports, and just kind of like playing outside as a kid. And my mom, my brother, and my stepdad and I moved from Baltimore to Atlanta when I was 10. And so then in those formative years, growing up, playing more organized sports and really just being in this place of just trying to be a kid, just like wanting to be a kid, wanting to have a normal life, wanting to have a normal existence, wanting to, just kind of like come home and be able to feel safe at home and, be able to let my shoulders down. But in all honesty, that was never really my existence growing up. I was never in a place where, okay, I am safe here. Everything's good here. There's nobody fighting. Like there's no drama. It just seemed like it was just always constant in my entire life growing up. So I found solace in movement. I found solace in playing sports. And that really just kind of was always a guiding light for me. When I went to Auburn for college, I realized that, I didn't play any sports or whatever there. I was just, a civilian, a student. But I, still was active and would find things to do with friends, walks, like I took one yoga class in college and I was like, nope, this isn't for me. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And so then upon graduating, I got my first job was living in a new city and state every 6 to 8 weeks, leasing apartments. And during this time, I'm going to a bunch of cities that I've never been to before, but a few states that I'd never even visited, some cities that I never even heard of. But the one thing that I knew I could find a community or find friends or find some sort of connection was at gyms and at studios. And so I took my second yoga class at a YMCA on the south side of Chicago. And from there, I was like, okay, now it's connecting.
You were hooked.
I was hooked because my freshman year at Auburn, my mom passed away from pancreatic cancer. And so I just kind of numbed out for, until really I started my yoga journey and really started to grieve her death. I definitely didn't do it while I was in college. I didn't have the language. I didn't really know what was happening. I did have my first therapist when I was in college too, which was pretty cool. But I started meeting with her my senior year, and I was getting ready to graduate, and I was like, I don't really know how this is going to work, but I don't know. I just, did it anyway. And I learned a lot with her. And that was kind of, I think, my first introduction to therapy, and my first introduction to the discussion of mental illness and not mental illness, but really mental health and grieving and mourning and all of those things. So then fast forward with me practicing yoga. I ran like 6 to 8 miles a day when I was there, just kind of like I joined a gym, just again, a way in which for me to meet people. And so it just kind of stuck. And then moving to setting up roots here in Los Angeles 13 years ago, I really had this, I was like, okay, because I need to set up roots somewhere. I've been moving around for 6 years, not grounded in anything. Hadn't really grieved the death of my mother. So I should really sit down and do something about this. And so I did. And I was in a relationship at the time, which was really beautiful, but extremely codependent. We both were. We didn't really know how to be in relationship because neither one of us came from homes that was like, this is how it should be modeled or great examples, right? And so it was a struggle initially because I was trying to find myself in a city. He was trying to find himself in this city, even though he'd been here for a few years. And, you latch on to what's comfortable and what's safe and what you know. And so we stayed in a relationship for 7 years. And then I realized, I was like, okay, this is not really serving either one of us anymore. So let's just end it while we can here now. So that ended. And then I really thrusted me, which was really beautiful in that relationship. So many different things were, but really one thing that came out of it was a motherless daughters meetup group that he'd actually done on my behalf. And I was like, oh my God, didn't even know anything like this existed. I've actually just been thinking about this here recently and went to this group and, met other women that were at similar places like me. Their moms had died and they'd been mothering themselves, even if their father or caretaker, or they had another woman in their life, there's no one like your mom.
Yeah.
No one. And so it was a beautiful journey, a beautiful real introduction into really me starting the steps of getting into really healing my heart, understanding what was happening, having the language, and truly mothering myself through this journey. Wow. And then fast forward to, us, separating and me still kind of being like, okay, so now what am I going to do? Like, now my heart is broken. I'm still navigating so many different things. But during that time, during our relationship, I really started taking my yoga practice consistently and seriously. And I'd been doing it as I was traveling to anywhere I would go. I would join a yoga studio. But during that time, I said, okay, now I'm set up somewhere. I'm not traveling all the time anymore. I can finally do my yoga teacher training that I've always wanted to do since I stepped foot into my first heated yoga studio class, right? And so I was like, all right, this is what we're going to do. This is my life's calling. This is my mission. I want to bring this to my community and yada, yada, yada. And so then I started my yoga teacher training. And from there, I realized so much of my voice had been suppressed for so much of my life. And so I knew that my mission was to bring this yoga and this movement and this meditation and all the sort of things that I kind of have added to my healer's toolbox over the last almost 20 years. And so I could share it with my community, share it with anybody who will listen. And so that's kind of what through the trials of losing my mother, through the trials of dealing with, sexual trauma when I was younger, sexual trauma when I was in college, and just not really even feeling comfortable in my own skin, not really feeling comfortable with my body, not really feeling comfortable with my own voice, and really expressing myself fully in the capacity that I do now, unapologetically. Wellness just kind of was like I said, I was an athlete. So naturally movement has always been medicine for me. And so that just kind of jolted me into this place where I am today as a coach, as a, teacher, as a healer, as a just like friend and sister.
You are all those
Yeah.
things, my friend. You are all those things. Thank you for that. I think that that's one of the things that I deeply love about our relationship is the understanding of grief and understanding of like what that does to us. And what I'm hearing from what you've shared, it's these rooted and really deep wounds and patterns that we have from our childhood, how that then transfers into how we show up and how we identify ourselves or value ourselves or see ourselves, and therefore how we show up in relationship to others, right? And then you mix in there some grief, you mix in there some
Little sprinkle
trauma,
of grief
you
here and there,
sprinkle
sprinkle
that
of
in.
trauma in there. Yeah,
And it
exactly.
is wild. And it is wild. And it takes a lot of courage to be someone like you, which I admire so much, that when Ace walks into a room and her presence is noted and her presence and her smile is literally a gift to everyone, Ace, that you encounter. There is nobody that can give you a hug or a smile like Ace can. So like I honor you and I see you. It takes a lot of courage to do the work you've been doing. Not all of us have these beautiful upbringings. It's not that wasn't our path on this journey, on this life.
Right.
But what we do with these circumstances that we are given, right? And we
Right.
in many ways, if we believe this, have chosen to exist in this life in this way. It takes a lot of courage to show up and say, okay, I'm going to look at that. I'm going to work through that. And then I'm going to create something beautiful for
Right.
others to also heal from that place, which is
Right.
what you've done. And so when we connected, the thing that I was at Chopra at the time, always looking for talent and amazing faces and voices to share this message and these tools in accessible ways. Because through these experiences of the wounded healer, you can show up with such grace
Yeah.
and such beauty to others, because this journey is not linear, right? And
Mhm.
I think that was one of the things that I admired from following you on social even before we connected, was just the way you made this real, the tools, the conversations, how you give access to people to your life, right? How much you share, and that is inspiring for others. So I admire you so much for all of that and how you keep showing up. You show up. You are the real deal. And so I just wanted to just share that, because as you were saying all of that, I think of all of the conversations we've had and how we understand what that is, and it could be really dark. The reality is that it can be, but we all have a choice and the ability to make a choice, and that we're going to have some good days and not so great good days and not so good days, and that we rise again, we
Yeah.
come up again, and we have the option to do that and access to do that. And I think yoga for me, just like you, I wasn't one like you. I think that's amazing that you used sports at a young age. I'd use dance. That was my thing.
Yeah.
And I
That's
remember
the
it's that movement of that body. I think it's our roots that kind of
Mhm.
call us to come back to that and connect to spirit through movement and our movement of body. But I can resonate deeply with you in regards to getting on the mat and getting into a hot yoga class. And that evolution from like stepping on the mat for the first time or the second time, or being like, okay, I'm the only person of, at least
Yeah.
my experience, I was the only person of color, probably
Yep.
you as well. And another thing I love about you is that you are in all of the spaces. You walk in, you're like, let's go.
Yep.
And I did the same. And I remember just like the evolution of that. And I remember saying, I want to do this. I don't know how. And I think a lot of us go through that. And maybe some of the people that are listening and watching this is like, you don't know how, but you're like, I need to be part of this.
Yeah.
So from that corporate space that you were working in, how did you make that transition into incorporating the business savviness that you have as, being in like real estate and all of the other work you did? How did you incorporate that? Because I know a lot of your work you do is in those corporate spaces. How did you make that shift and incorporate it into your life now doing this, full time?
I used to be a marketing manager for a commercial real estate firm in downtown, and I will forever sing the praises of my time there because I had I had the best manager, supervisor. She hates when I call her my boss. She's like, I'm not your boss. Like,
That's the best when you know your friends and you're like,
yeah,
you're
I
just
had the
good.
best mentor. I had the
Mm.
best cheerleader that I've ever had in a workspace in my life.
Beautiful.
And a beautiful Black woman navigating these spaces where it was just the two of us, literally, and creating these dynamic experiences. And I just learned a lot from her. And when I started my yoga teacher training, I went to her and I was very transparent about what I was going to be starting and days when I would need to be able to, like, when I would have to leave the office by a certain time, and how I would, of course, still be available for my work, show up, do my deadlines, things like that. But where my focus outside of work was taking me. And the same thing I had to share with my, partner at the time. And, I just like prayed they understood, and they did. And so having that conversation and then knowing the way that I'm set up, like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to college and I'm going to get a job after college. Like, I grew up, and I actually just talked about this yesterday about how I grew up in a house where you either go to work or you go to school. And the mindset was you don't leave one job until you get another one. So that was ingrained in me, like from a single mom who worked 3 jobs and was always there for us. She just was working really hard to ensure that we never struggled and we didn't have to be in precarious situations or stay in a situation or a relationship. I think specifically with me, like, you don't have to stay somewhere just because you can't afford to leave. Never be in a place where you can't be like, I'm out. And so, but I did just kind of out of, after, 19 isn't, you're technically an adult, but it's still very young. It's very young, and you just don't know which way you're coming and going. So for me, I was like, I just have to make sure that I'm safe. Anything that I do, I just have to make sure that I'm safe. I have to make sure that my bills are paid. I have to make sure that I have a roof over my head. So that kept me in jobs for probably longer than I needed to be there, longer than past the time of expiration. And so being in this, so to get back to your question, being in this job, the last job that I had that I resigned from 4 years ago, it was a good job. It was a great job. I was paid well. It was exciting. We did amazing things. I learned so much, as I mentioned, but I knew after I was done with my yoga teacher training, I knew actually from the first class,
wow,
I'm not going to be at this job for much longer. I didn't know what that would look like. I didn't have a plan of action, but I just knew that entrepreneurship was always inside of me. I saw my mom, she sold Amway, Mary Kay, Tupperware. She sold anything. I really got it honest, but I saw that she was never able to really leap because she had 2 kids that she had to take care of. So for me, it was like entrepreneurship. I always knew I wanted to work for myself. I always knew I wanted to have my own business. I always knew that I wanted to teach. I just didn't know what that would look like because I didn't have anybody really modeling that at the full extent of their capacity or bandwidth or potential, I should really say, rather, in my life. And so moving to LA where you meet people and they're doing 50, 11 things and you're like, oh, Okay, so it is possible. It is possible because you're making it work, they're making it work, and you're looking at yourself, well, and I'm assessing what all I have. I was like, well, I have a college degree, I have career experience, I've traveled the world. Like, why not me? Right. And it's not like I left the job to go be an aerospace engineer. It was like I'm leaving to do something that I'm already doing anyway. And it was, and I, gotten an opportunity to teach yoga to some of our tenants on my lunch break. Like, so instead of me taking a lunch break, I would go take a yoga class. I would teach like our tenants yoga. And then any opportunity I got to teach outside of like, work, I would, my colleagues or whatever, my former colleagues, they were like my first yogis. They would just like we would find a vacant floor and I would teach them yoga classes there. And I would just like, they're like, what can we pay you? I'm like, I don't know, whatever, $10. I don't know. I don't really care. Like, and I would go work places at studios and like $25, $35. And I'm like, I didn't care. Cause for me, it was like, I need to teach this, and any chance I get, any opportunity I can outside of work, I need to be doing yoga, teaching yoga, practicing yoga. And so for me, I would take these practices. And so instead of me compartmentalizing my world, which I thought I had to do, because that's like a part of, you see in corporate America, like, your private, your personal life, your business life. And it's like, it's my life. So it's kind of all going to mesh, like it's all me. One. I'm not going to be one person here and another person there, respectfully. And so I had, started to take aspects of my teaching, how I would hold space in a classroom as a teacher, how I would lead in a workshop, to boardrooms and holding these spaces and doing these presentations, even if I had to have like stones in my pocket as I'm nervous talking to, senior leadership of this entire Western region. And I'm like shaking in my bootstraps, but like, holding it together, using my breathwork practices, using my meditation, using, the Reiki that I'd learned in the process to just like really prepare myself and hold space in these very intimidating spaces. And so I said, alrighty, the more and more I kept doing that, bringing my worlds together, I knew that I was on the right journey. And then COVID happened. 2020 happened, and we were all, put in place and started working from home. And I said to myself, when they started talking about going back to the office, I literally never in my life, darling, or at least I don't think I did. I probably did have anxiety. I just didn't know what it was. I started getting anxious. I started getting nervous. I said, I cannot go back into this office. I cannot go back and do this work full time. I just cannot do it. And people were like looking at me like I was crazy. Like, you're going to leave this job during times when people are getting furloughed, people are getting laid off, and you're so lucky. You're so this, you're so that. And again, still in the back of my head, mom is there. Like, don't leave a job until you have another one. And I'm like, well, I didn't have a job lined up when I quit the first job and moved to LA, and I got a job in 30 days. And I was like, I'm going to go ahead and take a leap of faith out on this. And I could not have been more supported by my former colleagues and my manager and my mentor. They were so proud of me. And I had conversations with every member of leadership that I'd had a relationship with. And they were like, wow, I never, a lot of them were like, I never had the courage in my career to really go out and do my own thing. So we're so proud of you. It's so inspiring. And these are people who are twice my senior having these conversations. So I said, all right, God, you said I'm going to be all right. And I trust you. I trust you. I trust you. And so making the pivot was seamless for me. Now, was I scared to death? Absolutely, I was, because I was like, already, I'm really about to be my own bank. I'm really about to like step away from this. And and I always said to myself, if at the end of the day, it doesn't work out, I can always go back. I can always do this, what I'm doing, but I know that it will work out, and there will be trials and there will be tribulations. And I was just listening to someone, Rachel Rogers, who's amazing. She was like, entrepreneur, and she was saying she was at this event and they were talking about how corporations call, what they do research and development, trial and error, testing out products and whatnot. And entrepreneurs, somehow, some way, we feel like we got to get it right the first time. And we call it failures if it's not perfect. And so it's like, that I heard that recently, this within this week. And I said, you know what? That has really kind of like stunted me a little bit in my entrepreneurial journey. But then I think back to all the things that I learned at my former company. It was like they were around for like 200 years. So they've had time to like get it right and get it wrong and mess up. And they have a 500 plus employees working for them around the world. And so it's just me right now. And that's okay. So whatever we want to do, and it's really cool. Entrepreneurship is like, we wake up, what do we want to do today? What do we want to try today? What do we want to explore? What do we want to say no to? What do we want to say yes to? And so again, making that pivot and making it in a really beautiful and respectful, like I gave my boss plenty of time. She kind of knew it was coming because I just wasn't happy. And no matter what they would have given me, I still would have been like, now, because I would have been just like a crabby little kid who just wants French fries. But at the end of the day, I knew that I had to be honest with myself that this job, when I first got it, was my dream job. And I no longer saw it as that anymore. And it was time for me to step away and make space for people, or make space for a person whose dream job it was meant to be for now. And so that's how I made the pivot, and really just have kept going now for almost 4 years. And I'm really grateful for all the opportunities that I've had in my life, and, the lessons. And have been blessed to work with the best in class professionally. I've only had really 2 professional career jobs. And well, 3, but 2 really in the same field. But it really is, it's been a blessing. It's been a journey, but it's been guided by me trusting myself and knowing that, okay, I got through college, I graduated and got this, so throughout my life, it's just been this really beautiful saying yes. But again, a lot of hills to climb, and the biggest hill is believing in myself and believing that I can do it.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful. I didn't know the whole story, and thank you for sharing it. I think that we nowadays kind of glorify entrepreneurship, and we don't have the real conversations about the hardships of it.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. And I know that I love that. And I really want to do this on the show where we continue to share what that transition could look like. And I think that modeling and understanding and sharing story and storytelling is extremely important for us to realize how we can make that transition in a way that honors like our the past version of us, and then the new version of us as we're moving into the whatever versions we decide to do. If it's a mixed model of working still in corporate and having doing part-time or full-time entrepreneurship, I think that one of the things that I love telling clients and individuals that I encounter as they're making these transitions is that these individuals are your first clients. The people that you've worked with, as you know, in the corporate spaces, they know you, so they can vouch for you. They know who you are as an employee. They know who you are as a colleague, as a friend, sometimes that you become friends with your colleagues. So they're the first ones that are going to show up at your yoga class when you call them. They're the first ones that are going to give you the opportunity to teach a class for Mental Health Month. So making that transition feel really nourishing and supportive when possible, because we know that that's not always possible, and leaving your name, because your name, you don't know in business how the world is extremely small. Opportunities, right? Opportunities can come from, you don't know. As an entrepreneur, you actually don't know where your next opportunity is going to come from.
You really don't. You really don't.
Out of nowhere, someone's like, oh my God, this person's doing wellness. So let me call them, And so just keeping that in mind for people, I think is really important. And I know that probably has set you up to really be able to do that integration within, corporate, and being able to show up in leadership, in yoga, and also a lot of the work you've done in retreats, which I cannot wait to talk about that as well. The way you hold space for others is just divine. And I really want to talk about that, retreats and just the gathering and coming together. And I
Oh,
think we've met each other in these spaces,
yeah.
and multiple organizations and people. I personally love the way you walk this walk of being an individual as a yoga instructor, teacher, leader in this space. And then you also love collaboration with other
Yeah.
other groups and organizations. I think that we should do more of that
Yeah.
because we're
Absolutely.
solopreneurs. We're kind of doing it. We are doing all the things. The marketer, you are the facilitator, you are the host, you are the editor of the content. You're doing social media. You're doing all that stuff. So the more we can come together with organizations and people and corporate spaces that are open to collaboration and in alignment with your work, the more the merrier. Do it more.
Absolutely.
No one's competing with anybody else. The
Yeah.
more, your shine ain't like somebody else's shine. So
Right.
there's no
Yeah. I mean,
so,
honestly, like, yeah, Dar, and I just want to touch on quickly about the entrepreneurship, and then also
yeah.
like
Yeah.
in getting back to your question with holding space is that, you can read a million books on entrepreneurship. You can take courses, you can have mentors, you can have a+ business plan. You can have capital, you can have, just the familiar support, you can have just community, you can have all those things. But what I never saw, and I still don't see, and I actually kind of, maybe I'm seeing it a little bit more now because I'm seeking it out and maybe it's where I am, but no one spoke about when I first started this, the emotional component of entrepreneurship. You
Absolutely.
cannot buy your way out of it. You cannot, ignore it. You can't pat it down. It is an emotional, every single day journey that if your foundation, much like when you move to a new city or state, if you aren't sure who you are, that city's going to tell you. And you don't want to have anybody, especially a city, telling you who you are. And so unless you take the time and the resources and understand that, like, who am I? What are my deepest desires? What do I want to do in the world? And sometimes that's a always, I'm adding pages, right? It's not like, I know
The
that at the end
story's
of
being
the day,
written.
exactly. Stories continuously written until until we're no longer here. But it's like, it's still then after. But then it's like, I'm constantly adding and digging deep and questioning myself and doing, as Tracy Stanley says, self-inquiry, right? Of like, okay, like, how can I be a better space holder? How can I be a better space holder for myself? What do I need right now? My heart is broken. My heart is tender. My heart is full. It's happy. It's expansive. Like, all of these different emotions that you are going to feel are 100% normal, because I've never given birth, but like to a person, but I definitely feel as though like creating this business is my baby. But then what helped me was realizing, like, if God said, I got you, or whatever power you believe in, whatever higher power you believe in, if you do. But for me, is God. If God said, I got you, and God is, so why am I feeling like now I have to separate God from my business? Why do I need to feel like, why am I not having these consultation meetings, these one-on-one meetings with God, who's the CEO, founder, creator, and I'm co-creating with his existence. I'm co-creating with his plan that he had laid out for my life. Because as we talked before we started the camera, if we were in charge, we'd be a hot mess. And yet and still, we find our way in those dumpster fires. We find our ways in those hot messes. So why not just take a second and understand that it's an emotional journey that you'll forever go on as you build, as you research, as you develop, as you trial, as you error, as you do all of these things. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure that
Thank you, Ace. I think that this is extremely important. I was actually talking to a friend yesterday about entrepreneurship. I've been on this path this month, 2 years since I left Chopra Global. And so when I left Deepak's company, I was like, what do I do now? I've worked with the best in the business. okay, I want to serve this community of healers and wellness practitioners and the brands that want to connect with them and show up and create programming. I was like, I'm going to do this. But what I didn't prepare, as you shared, it's like the freedom, right? Which we glorify, which we definitely share that on social a lot more than we share the other stuff. And I think
Mhm.
for myself, it's always a balance of what you share because it is it should be inspiring. So process that stuff before you share it in my
Yes,
way.
period,
That's
that
it.
part.
Let's,
Your diary
let's
first.
process it. Let's process it first. And it is, and what I think it is, it's because it's such a right, like the idea of wellness, the idea of spirituality, of a journey of healing. It is not like selling a car. It is not like selling an entrepreneurship to sell something. You are literally intrinsically part of the product,
Yeah,
and therefore you're going to see and witness and experience your own wounds within your own self of how you are showing up, what you actually want, how that makes you feel when maybe you have been doing outreach or doing something and it doesn't come back the way
yeah,
you thought it would.
yeah,
Am I good enough? Do people actually, am I an imposter? What am I doing? That is a constant. No one has ever told you this. If you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, get ready.
yeah.
Get ready to do the work,
Yep,
the
the
real
real
work,
work.
because and not everybody, actually do not believe everyone should be an entrepreneur. I
I
do
don't either.
not believe it. I do not believe that everybody should leave their corporate jobs. I am a believer that, and I've shared this with you. I believe like sometimes you need that stability. There's
Yep,
so many practitioners that I talk to that are like unstable and unable because of the process of this to find their foot and grounding in it. And like you said, it is, you need that foundation. And sometimes that financial support or structure is needed because you're not a natural marketer,
yeah.
because you're not a nat and by the way, these are all skills that we can get better and kind of master.
That you help people master.
No, and I love talking to people about it because I
Yeah,
want them to know that they can market themselves in the ways that feel genuine and true to them, not because of an ad that they saw on social media, make $100,000 and do this course. Like, let's leave that mindset behind because it's not true, by the way. It's not. It is not true for everyone, is my point. And so, really understanding yourself truly in this process of entrepreneurship and that self exploration, self reflection, as you said, like it is the work. And I know myself, and I know you do too. Imagine the four years ago version of ACE and the version of you today. That's a whole other ass person.
I mean, like people like a girlfriend of mine, one of my best friend, she had a daughter in 2020 and her daughter is 4. Like
Wow.
that
Yeah.
4-year-old fully like capable
Completely.
sentences, like just what like just a little person. And you're
Yeah.
like, and you're thinking that time is not, it won't wait for you. And I think that
Mhm.
it can, when I share in my workshops and at my retreats, and me holding my first retreat
Mhm.
ever in life by myself was 2021, going, and it was like, of course I would pick a time where you have to, of course I would pick a place where you go out of the country, so to Mexico.
I
Right.
love it.
And then you're like, okay, so then we have to just make sure that 15 of these people who I am responsible for the next 7 days,
Mhm.
because it's my
Mhm.
retreat, all make
Mhm.
sure that they test negative so they can get back into the countries that they're from. So yeah,
It's
let's
not
unblock
an easy
that.
time to do
Yeah,
anything.
not an easy time at all. Let's be the
Mhm.
sole facilitator on this retreat, and
Wow.
realizing like, oh my goodness, bandwidth, like not logistics, like you said, us
Woo.
doing all the things to get these people there. Now, it was amazing. It was amazing. It was
Mhm.
incredible. And I definitely am continuously doing it again and again and again, but
Mhm.
realizing like where a lot of the heartache for me has come over the last kind of 4 years is like, always seeking out people to collaborate with, work with, like
Yeah.
co-create with.
You're such a great example of that. I love how you do that.
I love it, right? But I also feel like not every person is supposed to be who I'm collaborating with. And maybe me seeking out people to collaborate with and connect with and whatnot, like in a way in which like that I was looking at it before was not the way that I look at it now. I'm like, if someone reaches out to me and wants to co-create with me and collaborate, I have very different conversations with them versus like before it was like, yes, yes, yes. Now it's like, okay, let's assess. Let's talk about what the theme, our vision, mission, purpose. Like, let's talk about, is this a one-off or is this something where we're creating a series? Because I'm not interested in any facets of my life of things being one-offs anymore. And I know that sometimes things are supposed to be that way, and that's okay. And that's not wrong. It's, as I mentioned before, and as like Rachel Rogers said, was like, it's all research and development. It's all research and development. No one has it all figured out. No one has, you can have your template, rinse and repeat, which is beautiful, but that takes time. One of my greatest teachers and dearest friends, Jennifer Pasiloff, has been doing this for a very, very long time. And she was the first retreat that I ever went on. She was like one of my very first like yoga teachers where I was like, this is my teacher. And she leads retreats. Like she used to do so much more, but then she realized like, this is over the 20 plus years that she, like actually longer, that she's been doing it. She's realizing this is my thing. This is what I do. This is where I go once a year, twice a year. And then I do this, and I'm a writer, and her yoga for her, and she can speak more to that, you know, herself, but, you know, was a catalyst to her being where she is today as this best-selling author and still a retreat leader and still a coach. Right. But again, all of that, her coming to this place where she is now wouldn't have been possible had she not tried all the different things. So I'm definitely open to trying the different, like, I love facilitating. I love activating. I used to do these workshops once a month called I Am, and they would be, you know, based off of my candle line, which is the I Am candle collection. I am brave. I am beautiful. I am joy. I am love. I am free. And we created one. I co-created one with a friend of mine who's this exceptional designer. I am booked and busy. Like, it was just like, you know, trying all of these different things that I would facilitate, and it was amazing. And then I kind of fell into something where it was like, you know, you kind of fall into, as you mentioned, like, where's the money? Where does the money reside? Right? Like, that's where I'm going to go, where the money resides. And I'm going to focus my attention there because I got to eat. I got to pay people. I got to pay bills. And then again, you realize like, okay, so I'm falling back into more or less a corporate mindset, which is okay. I learned so much. You learn so much in corporate America. You learn so much at your jobs. And I even interviewed for a job, like, because I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this like for much longer, like entrepreneurship, working for myself rather. But then I didn't get it, there was no surprise to me because intuitively I didn't want it. It was just something that I was like going back to, that was really, sorry about the plane, but it was really, I was just going back to, I wanted to feel comfortable and felt safe. And it was like, I already know, let's dig deep onto what we can do. We can create, we can facilitate, we can create a workshop, we can create a retreat, 1-day retreat, 2-day retreats, 5-day retreats. We can take people on retreat to, I want to do a yoga and wellness safari. Yes. So I'm going to take people on a safari, and we're going to do yoga and we're going to meditate, and we're going to be in Zambia and Zimbabwe. What? Yeah, we're doing that. We're doing that. And I did it. And it was like, you know, people are like, and for me, it was like, I kind of felt a little like, God, and all these people didn't come. And I'm going to share this. One person signed up. One person. Yeah. And it was
one person.
And it was exceptional. And my thing is like, that was one person, you're right, that said, I trust you enough to take me halfway across the world. Someone who I'd never met in person before until we met in the Qatar airport. And so I'm telling you, like, anybody who's listening, anybody who's wondering if they have the capability, if they can, if they're on the right track, like, if they're not on the right track, I don't know. But all I know is I couldn't have called me sitting in a Qatar airport, having a layover for 7 or 8 hours or whatever it was, and going on this journey. I could not have called that for myself 4 years ago. I could not have called that into existence. I could not have seen that for myself. And if someone who born in Baltimore, grew up in Atlanta, in situations where, like, you know, like I said, my mom wasn't an entrepreneur by, like, you know, every single day. You know, my mom got an associate's degree, right? She didn't have, you know, all this stuff, all this technology, all this access that we have access to now. But what she did was always have a dream for her children and always believed in us, and also made sure that we had angels left on earth when she perished that really looked out for us. And for a long time, I didn't really take advantage of that because I was just kind of like in my own shit, you know, which is like fine because you're a teenager trying to figure your life out without, you know, like I'm putting myself on an allowance. I'm putting myself on a budget with like this. I'm like, what? But recognizing like really getting to a place where you'll wake up one day like, oh, I need to pop my shit more. I need to realize like, okay, this is like, all right, I'm playing myself. I'm playing in my own face. And that's what like a lot of my workshops, a lot of my retreats, a lot of my life coaching is about. Like, let's look at ourselves in the mirror. Like I said on the talk that I was on yesterday, your mental wealth and mental health is your responsibility. Now there's other outside forces that make that challenging, make that road tough, but it is my responsibility to sit with the broken heart when I need to sit with it, to heal myself when it's time to heal, to say, alrighty, like we've been sad long enough. That's a you decision, not anybody else. Now it's time to do something about it. Now it's time to use this medicine that, because I find sadness, joy, happiness, it's all medicine. Let's use this medicine to fuel what you're here to do. And that's just kind of where I am right now.
I love that. Wow, you're so beyond inspiring, Ace. I could stay here talking to you for hours, and you will have to come back on
I'll be back
at some point.
Find me.
Yes, I think that your journey is such one of inspiration. I think that that's why I created this conversation that I want to have with my friends and those in this industry and other industries of culture, tech, and entrepreneurship, is to inspire other people to hear the stories, the reality of all the things that have brought you to this moment and this time, and how free and open and full of heart and like life you are. And that even with all of that, it is messy, it is raw, it is sometimes not, because again, it's like this idea of it being all sunshine, and the reality is that no one has it in sunshine all the time. We need the darkness. We need it to be able, we need the darkness and the light. And so I honor you and I see you, my friend. You inspire me all of the time. And
I love you so much, darling.
I love you, love you, love you. And I want people to connect with you deeper. And just for the last question, just before we end here, what is something you're excited about, you know, as you think about this new year, end of year, something you're really excited about that you would want people to be connected to and just share from your heart?
I'm really excited about, first, thank you so much again for having me. This has just been so great. I love you. I'm so proud of you. You are talk about an inspiration. Like, you are just everything.
Mirror back to you, my friend. A mirror back to you.
Mirror, mirror. I am excited about, this tour, this Joy for Life tour that I'm planning, where we're going to be going to 10 different cities around the country, around the United States for now, and a tour that, you know, I'm saying it out loud. I've been saying it out loud. I've been been working with my CEO, God, about it and talking about it. So I'm really excited about that going into the new year. I am excited about creating these different experiences that I used to think that I couldn't be a part of because I'm not in a relationship, I'm not married, but a lot of date night couple experiences, workshops, and, time for connection for people. I'm going to be creating things like that. I'm creating things for friends to gather together. And as well. So I'm really excited about being finally in this place in my life where I have found my community, found people where I don't need to be the space holder. We all hold each other up. We laugh, we cry, we have a good time, we go out and have a great time, we live our lives, but then we get back to work, we get back to what we want, we get back to dreaming big, we get back to sharing our dreams with one another. I'm really looking forward to collaborating with more of my friends, more people who bring me joy, who inspire me and inspire their communities. I'm really looking forward to that and really excited about that. And also excited about working more with children. I teach kids yoga and working more with kids and at different schools and preschools, and which is incredible. It used to scare me half to death, but now it's like the greatest job in the world that I'm just so grateful that God called me to do. And I really am lastly just really looking forward to coaching more people, life coaching more people to really see that the circumstances in their life, that the cards that they were dealt, they don't have to accept them forever. It doesn't have to be the only story that they tell, that they do get to live a free, liberated, and abundant life. And it gets to be easy, and it gets to be delicious and sexy and liberating and exciting. And someone that I, is another teacher of mine, Amber Cabral, who has written several books, and she's incredible. And she wrote a post and said, I just realized that an easy life is just not what was given to me when I was born. And when she said that, I said, oh my God, that's what it is, because I am the generational curse breaker. And it's not going to be easy, but it gets to be easy. It gets to be sweet. It gets to be, but when I say that it's not going to be easy, there is going to be trial, strife, and tribulation, which we've all experienced with that, which I've experienced from a very young age to here now. So now saying that it gets to be easy, meaning that I get to continue to do this work, and it is my soul's purpose to serve and to be there for people, be there for myself, and really help other people do the same thing. So see the same thing for themselves. Yeah. So that I'm really energized by that. And just everything that I learn, I share. And some things I keep for myself until it's time to share, but really just in this conduit of information, in this vessel of what's possible when you don't have anything, when you don't have anything, when you don't know. And, like I said, my upbringing and my story is I had more than most, even though I didn't have much. And I understand that. And, and so I'm just really excited about seeing how the women in my life, the women who I love, like you, so many women in my life are really being enough is enough. It's time for me to liberate myself, and let's band together and make that happen. And so, finding my true love in the process too, and finding
love it. We love love. We love love.
And creating, having my own little family and baby and man one day. So
love that. Thank you. Thank you. We are the example. I think we probably didn't have those examples. They're like, wow, okay, it is possible. I can live a life that I create and I co-create with the creator, God, whatever we want to call it. It is an energy that we know exists. For me, at least, it's been very powerful, and I see it, and it is very intuitive. And I see that in you and our conversations. And thank you for being that example to so many, to myself, about how to show up for myself, because you are showing up for yourself. And then how we can create community, intentional community, show up authentically, and love. one
Yes.
another, because that's
Yes.
what we need the most. I love you so much.
I
I
love
can't
you
wait
so
to
much.
have you back because this was not enough time.
Not enough time.
Never, never. There's so much, and I thank you for sharing all of that, because I think that we need more of that conversation of knowing the backstory, because what we see on social is just what we see, and having deeper conversations in these formats are really powerful. And I hope that this is of support to everyone that's watching, listening, and we will be back soon with another episode. Thank you, Ace, for being here, and I love you.
I love you. Thanks, Star. Proud of you. See you
Thank
soon.
you always.